Hello friends. So this is my probably second attempt really of doing this video. My first attempt, the video ended up being an hour long and I thought that was a little excessive, so I should really try to work on kind of cutting it down and kind of get to the point of what I really want to say. The video was going to be a recap of the season so far, and then kind of covering a little bit of some controversies from the season so far. Things I've been seeing on like Facebook and stuff and Twitter or whatever. Just kind of addressing some of those. And then also just kind of like my speculation on where the season is going from here. So I'm going to kind of cut the recap. I'm going to assume that if you're watching this video, which I'm going to title a mid-season analysis or something like that, that you're up to date on Star Trek Discovery Season 3. The last episode as of the filming of this video is Unification 3. Okay, so quick recap, nothing in depth. So season 2 showed Discovery going 930 years into the future from where they were to landing in the year 3188, and then finding that the Federation is basically just a shadow of itself due to something called the burn, where all the dilithium ended up exploding or something. And so there's very little dilithium left. So warp-capable starships are pretty much not able to do much. And so Starfleet is very much barely a thing. And with Starfleet going down, kind of down goes the Federation. The Federation doesn't have the outreach it once did. And if we know anything about like how the Federation was in the 24th century, it was that some of the outliers really actually did feel ignored. And the Federation was not exactly the best at making sure that border colonies and whatever were taken care of. Hence the Maquis and whatever, they were left to fend for themselves because the Federation didn't want to take any chance of disturbing the peace with the Cardassians, and a whole lot of good that did them. But anyway, so Discovery ends up coming through the time wormhole about a year after Burnham herself did. And so she had a whole year of dealing with this guy named Book, Cleveland Booker. And what was kind of amazing with him is he seems to be the 32nd century guide. And so it almost seems like he's a Neelix done right. So he's not annoying. He's good to look at. He's very interesting character. And of course, Burnham really likes him. And so what is really interesting about some of the things that have popped up in this season, that there is a much more emphasis on character. So it's like the writers of Discovery have kind of taken notes and realized exactly where season 1 and 2 have failed. I mean, I'm not a Discovery hater by any means. I actually quite enjoyed season 1 and 2, season 2 especially. Season 1 I definitely have more issues with, but there is one glaring issue that even I can't ignore, and I'm a Discovery defender, is that the characters suck. Well, maybe not necessarily that they suck, but they're completely non-existent. I mean, there's Burnham, and then there's, okay, Yeah. I mean, in the first season, you asked, who is the bridge crew? And she's like, really? I couldn't. I don't know. Season 2 did a little bit better with that. And with the Captain Pike and Spock, I mean, obviously you're going to know who those are. And then, but there was still the issue where, I mean, something glaring to me in season 2 was the episode where Arium dies. And that whole episode before that point is about how amazing Arium is, about how the whole crew is really close to her. And it's like, how come we only know this in this one episode? How come that wasn't a thing, like, at least the whole season prior to that she was a very important person in these people's lives? And it's like, but then it's all like shoehorned in like 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever, and then she dies. So it's like they called themselves out. It's like, hey, yeah, we didn't develop this character at all, so we got to do this. We got to develop her real quick before we kill her off, so that there's some emotional punch to it, that kind of thing. So, and it seems like season 3, however this storyline ends up, whether it's like a complete bust, at least they really worked on character and it had really great character moments. So, some character moments that really stood out to me is in episode 2, Far From Home. So Tilly she's having a hard time explaining, like, verbally, kind of what she's thinking. And Giorgio was pretty much just like, hey, you're just wasting everybody's time by talking. And then Saru is pretty much just like, no, you're very smart and you really have a lot to offer. So why that was a good character moment for me in my mind is because, I've often kind of been in that situation as well, where it's like, I know what I'm talking about, I know I'm right, but I don't exactly know how to express it without kind of fumbling over my words. And so that was just kind of, so that was something that was like kind of more like personally, like I relate to that. And then the third episode, I thought it really kind of had like a really good message where it was just really just about like how blanket xenophobia really does nobody any good. So I thought there was a good message there where it's like, hey, why Earth has just kind of fallen is because they're just xenophobic now and just hyper suspicious of everyone and everything. So the fourth episode, Forgive Me Not, was something that was more of... that was the one where they went to Trill to get Adura's symbiont to actually, share its memories with her. And, those character moments were great. You see that the crew of the Discovery actually suffering from PTSD from what happened in the previous season. And up to that point, because this is really just, you look at like past Star Treks, and Deep Space Nine did this a little bit better. Namely, I'm thinking of the episode with Nog, where's the episode after he lost his leg, and then he just refuses to deal with reality after that for an entire episode, But this, and I'm really thinking about like this is like showcasing how like Voyager severely failed, because in Voyager you see a whole crew that is desperate to get back home, yet there's really nothing about how they're acting that would say that they really care or that it really matters to them. It's almost like, hey, Janeway wants to get back home because she feels it's her duty. She feels guilty about having stranded or at least partially responsible for stranding her crew on the complete other side of the galaxy. But then you see, like everybody else, it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. We're on a deep space mission. You know, it's basically TNG 2.0. So, you know, what's it really matter? In TNG was TOS 2.0. So it was just kind of more of the same, when it really could have said something different. And now Discovery feels like it's trying to rectify that a little bit with saying, we can say something different. We can say these people that are in this military organization are suffering from, their mental health is gone and they need help. And I thought that was a really excellent to highlight. That episode also tied into the episode, or the Short Treks episode, Calypso, where the computer is this sentient being, and it just kind of shows like where that originated from, which I thought was really good. I was wondering when that was going to end up tying in, and hopefully we'll have more answers to that by the end of the season. Okay, so Diatrian is the 5th episode. That's the one where they actually see they actually get to Federation headquarters, which is no longer on Earth. And the Easter eggs there is the USS Voyager J, which, man, it's really cool. That's like, so Voyager is going to end up with the Enterprise type namesake, where it keeps the same serial number and they just add letters to the subsequent ships, which was really cool. And then the USS Nog, which I believe this was filmed around the time of his passing, so that was definitely an homage to him, Aaron Eisenberg, the actor who played Nog. So yeah, that was, I believe that was definitely an homage to him, Nog. Of course, it wasn't just a Ferengi. He was the first Ferengi in Starfleet, and a really go-getter. So he probably ended up getting promoted to captain, probably pretty quickly, and bringing Ensign Kim on board with him. Yeah. Okay, so that episode ended up, being about like how Discovery needs to prove itself, because we can't corroborate your story. So yeah, we don't know who you are, where you came from, and if your story is true, you're a bunch of outlaws, because time travel is against the law. So that was just kind of, how that was kind of going. Then we get episode 6, which is Scavengers. This one also had some great character moments. I'm not really too keen on like the A plot, where Burnham ends up going and getting this black box to help her figure out like what happened with the burn. That seemed to be kind of like a paint by numbers story. But what really got me was the character moments. I'm just going to keep coming back to this. It really did some great character moments. And this was kind of where you got your first inkling that Saru sees Tilly as the person he would love to go to as his number one. So, because Burnham ends up being extremely insubordinate towards Saru, and he's just kind of, it seems like he's got some flashbacks about Burnham, all from, it goes all the way back from the very first episode of the series, and then he's realized, and it's like, I can't trust this person. I cannot trust Michael Burnham. And so here's a couple of things. So she was not wrong in bringing up that, hey, there's this intel and we need to go get it. What Saru needed to do was bring that information up to Admiral Vance, who is the CNC. but he did not. And actually, he's called out on it himself. He was wrong. It was not his decision to make, to say, no, we are not paying attention to this intelligence because Discovery is on the hook for this other mission possibly. That was not his decision to make. And Admiral Vance does call him out on that. But Burnham was like, well, I can't take no for an answer on getting this intel. So, yeah, I guess I'm going on a rogue mission. And, that was not her decision to make too. So, it's like they were both wrong, But, and then this is kind of where Admiral Vance, after this whole thing, is just like, hey, you know what? I need a captain who I can trust their judgment of. And you exercise poor judgment by not even bringing the possibility of that intel to me. And, yeah, you got effed up, first officer. Do something about that. And so Saru ends up firing Burnham, and that's kind of that. And then in the next episode, Unification 3, he offers first officer to Tilly, the ensign, who was just a cadet like a season before. And of course, a lot of like the fan people, the Star Trek groups or whatever on Facebook are just like, that doesn't make any sense because your first officer should be, commander and should be, ready to take over as captain at any time, and it doesn't make sense. And of course, they're completely right, but it makes sense in this story, the story of Saru as captain. And Tilly even calls him out and says, yeah, this is why you're offering this to me. She says, you just want a first officer who is compliant. And of course, Saru is like, no, I need someone I can trust. But we know. Saru is a new captain. He doesn't understand that good leaders surround themselves with people who aren't afraid to tell them they need to fix themselves. So he sees Tilly. Well, of course he sees a lot of potential in Tilly because there is a lot of potential in Tilly. But would anyone say she's ready for command? Not a chance. So he really is looking for that compliant person who doesn't necessarily have the confidence to say, Captain, I disagree with you. So I think that this is going to end up biting him severely. And by the end of the season, he'll be seeing that how much he really needs someone like Burnham by his side. Someone who is just as seasoned as he is as far as how Starfleet works and everything. But of course, the whole crew backs Tilly. Everyone likes her. And I'm sure she would do a great job. But I think the motivations for putting her in that position are selfish on Saru's part. And I think it's going to bite him in the end. And I really hope it doesn't hurt her. I guess that also kind of brings up some of the other controversies that were kind of brought up. People were just like, sharing memes and stuff like, oh, Harry Kim must be really upset that Tilly gets offered first officer and Kim is still an ensign, and Harry Kim's from Voyageur, who went the entire 7 seasons just being Ensign Kim. But that's not exactly the best analogy because the XO, or first officer, is a position, not a rank. And if we want to talk about Harry Kim's position versus rank, he's the operations officer on Voyageur. So he's a lieutenant or a lieutenant commander by position. So it's just kind of like, whatever. His rank really doesn't mean anything. It's not like these people are getting paid. So it's all position and positional authority. And unless you're on the command pipeline, it doesn't really matter in the Star Trek universe. And from what we know of Tilly is that her goal was always to be captain. So she really could be theoretically in line to this not being a completely bad decision, though I think it probably, the whole point of Saru's arc, I think, is that it's going to be a bad decision. Basically because I think this is really the Michael Burnham show, and we kind of need to kind of see where some of her character flaws are actually assets in the end. I think that's kind of what we're going to see. Okay, so as far as like where I think the season is going to go as far as the burn, which is the big mystery of the season. So there's a couple episodes that seem to feature this little lullaby or this song. And at first it was just like, okay, not really thinking too much of it. But then it was just like, okay, they hear this song like in a completely different place in a completely non-related context, and so it's like, what the heck? So I'm thinking that this is going to end up being, this was how the burn was spread, was through this song. Maybe it was some kind of resonance that completely destroyed the dilithium, or something. But yeah, I don't know. So that's probably what it is. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where I think this season is going to end up, and in fact, I actually wouldn't be surprised if season 4. Yes, there is going to be Discovery season 4. I believe it's filming now. I would not be surprised if it's a 2-part season where the story is not going to be completely finished in this season. That would not surprise me at all. And I'm kind of really hoping that this somehow ties into what's going on in Picard, though I doubt it. I really don't necessarily see how that's going to happen at this point. I was pretty convinced that season 2 of Discovery was going to tie into season 1 of Picard, because it did seem like they had the same villain. It did seem like the androids were going to contact Control, and that's what that was about. But no, that wasn't the case. It just seemed to be, just back-to-back Star Trek seasons basically had the same story, yet they weren't related. So that was kind of really disappointing, because I wanted, if we're going to have like a shared universe, let's have a shared universe, and if we're going to tell the same stories, let's have them related. But my criticism of modern Trek, even though I really actually am quite enjoying it, and I really like this season of Discovery so far because of the emphasis on character. All right, well, I think I've rambled long enough, so I will let you all go. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you already have, thank you. All right. See you next time.